Welcome to Barber Jabber with me, Gary Spencer, the creator of the Great British Barber Bash. I am going to be talking to some of the most influential and interesting barbers. I'm going to cover all subjects from starting a business, building a brand, developing a celebrity clientele, tools, techniques, and a whole host of other things. It's going to be inspirational, motivational, and also a little bit of fun. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy it. Hello, Sean Bryan, and welcome to the first Barber Jabber by me, Gary Spencer, the Great British Barber Bash. Thank you so much for joining me. I've known you for quite a few years. I've seen your career grow. I've seen your business grow. On the Barber Jabber, a podcast we're doing, we're hoping to sort of get a bit more in depth with people and find out specifics with you. I really want to talk about how you built that brand, cut and sew, and you know the ups and downs and the pitfalls and the good times of having a group of salons or group of shops in Dublin. So tell me, let's start right at the beginning. Were you an academic? Did you leave school and go to college, or how did you very first start in the industry of barbering?
Firstly, thanks for having me on, Gary. It's a privilege and an honour to be asked as the number one guest on the podcast. So where did it start? It began maybe 12, 13 years ago. I had just lost an apprenticeship as a carpenter. I think we were all hit with a recession back about that time. And it was a tough time as a young man after deciding to leave school to become a carpenter. And that was what I wanted to be, a builder, carpenter, foreman, build my own house. And then life just hits you with a wallop and your life's turned upside down. Like, what do I do now? So friends of mine worked in a hair salon called Tony & Guy, which was the high-end shop globally then. And I basically got involved with the owner there. I just became friends with the owner, and they kind of asked maybe, do I want an apprenticeship? And coming from a household of 6 boys, I was like, nah, I don't want to go into this industry. Wasn't very cool and hip, and I couldn't relate to any guys in there. There was no real big characters like that I thought were like kind of cool guys that I could see myself become in the future. So lo and behold, a couple of months went into recession, and the idea didn't leave my head. I liked the idea of going into the salon. It was cool music, good looking chicks, very trendy. And I was always treated like a king because I was actually a customer of the shop. And then that was, 13 years ago. Did my training with Tony & Guy for 4 years. Gradually came to the realization that I wasn't a global superstar hairdresser. I actually more enjoyed the actual the looking after the people and having the one-to-one chats. And my male clientele grew so much so that all of the other kind of salons used to send their gents cuts to me in where we were. And then that kind of leads us to the point of, am I going to stick to hairdressing? Am I going to open my own hair salon? Or am I going to do gents cuts or barbering? And then we had the idea of going it alone, you know?
What were you as a person who specialised in cutting, or did you do colouring at the time? What were your sort of favourite styles to do?
So basically we had to do what's called a vardering, which is all your classic cuts, and it was quite difficult, you know, like round layer, square layer, vertical graduation, etc. And colouring, I wasn't great at. I passed everything, but my speciality, because I said I come from a household of 6 boys, I was always practicing on my little brothers until I was well able to kind of do it on the floor as such. And my specialities, I think it was my personality, and it was instilled in me, the customer service and the looking after people from the get-go. As soon as they walk through the door, make eye contact, make them feel welcome, let them know that they're there and you'll be there in however many minutes. And I think just my love for the hair salon, it kind of depleted, and I got such a kick out of making people look good and feel good. And it was always the gents that I seemed to like really look forward to. And then eventually my Saturdays all became just gents coming in. And then I took a leap of faith with hiring, in a record shop in the city centre of Dublin, I just asked the owners, like, you've got a bit of spare space there in the basement. Would you mind if I maybe set up a pop-up shop? And we did one Saturday on one of my holiday days. And it was a good success. There was maybe 10 people there. And that gave me the idea then to kind of leave Tony and Guy and go at it myself. So that's where kind of Cut and Sew started. 8 years
that
ago
would
now.
be, I mean, for people who don't know, Temple Bar is like the thriving area, which, I mean, you get loads of people going for parties and there's bars and there's music everywhere. But it must be a very expensive place to have a shop, I would imagine. And again, about 8 years ago, that would have been the time just coming out of recession. But what was it like setting up that first shop? Did you have a big lease that you had to sign, and was the rent time?
Yeah, well, very good question. So I think post-recession, a lot of businesses were subletting spaces within their shops to just generate revenue. And if you knew certain people, you would kind of ask them for favors. A lot of hair and beauty salons would kind of sublet to tattoo artists, to piercing guys that do ear piercings and stuff like that. And then this was a record shop that sold spray paint and skateboards, and they just had a storage space. So one chair with a mirror, they were happy to get 50 quid a week off me. And that's where it started. And because, again, going into this unknown as a young man, there was no contract, there was no solicitor meetings. It was all verbal contract and gentleman's agreement. So I just said, yeah, I'll take the space every Saturday. He was like, cool, just give us 50 quid. And I was like, okay. And then it was, some weeks were great. Some week you'd only make the 50 quid. So it was a little bit all over the shop at the start. But then I think when I fully committed to saying, right, am I going to keep working full-time in a hair salon 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, do Saturday as the pop-up shop, and God knows what's going to happen, or am I going to fully commit to it? So I said to the owners, like, look, I really like Temple Bar. This is a cool shop. This is a thriving part of Dublin. I feel like if I put some money into this, like painted it, got a nicer chair, mirror, etc., I could give it a bash. And he was like, cool. Yeah, he was like, well, he was going to get his basement cleaned up, painted, all the rubbish taken out of it. And he was happy to agree more money. So I said, look, I'll give you 150 a week. And he was like, right, perfect. So I left this hair salon, Tony and Guy, global brand. And I felt like exciting, but I had other ways to make money. I used to DJ, as we spoke about before, to just generate money so I could survive with rent and whatever else.
So you're spinning plates and spinning records.
Yeah.
Do you like that?
I like it. So I basically, I don't know, I didn't really have the name Cut and Sew then. It was just Haircuts by Sean, and all of my regular clients would just text me on the mobile. And I think this was pre-Instagram, post-Bebo, and Facebook was there. So Facebook page, I set it up, 500 likes, and that was just me asking everyone to like it, friends, families, God knows who, second cousins.
You keep getting blocked for inviting too many people. I did that when we first started. Yeah. I was like trying to add loads of people, they get blocking me.
Yeah, and when you add X amount, you know you're really, not that, you're just ambitious and hungry to try and get your word out there. But little did we know back then, Gary. And look where we've grown to now. So social media, it's a tool, as me and you both know, and we wouldn't be where we are without it. So then we said, right, friend of mine was like, you need to have a name. What can you think of? And I was like, well, I do haircuts. And he was a graphic designer. And I said, what have you done? And he showed me clothes he made. So he goes, haircuts, and then sewing clothes or making clothes, cut and make cut. And he was like, cut and sew. So he was actually going to be like a business partner with me. He'll do all the cut or the designs, and I'll do all the cuts. And then he bottled it. He was like, I don't really want to do this. And I was like, what? So he designed the first logo, Cut and Sew. And it was, real old Art Deco logo, but it was deadly to me. I had a label, a brand. And all of a sudden, when I put that on Facebook, like on the header, it looked more legit. And then I had a little price list that I didn't know how to do graphic design, and I didn't have an idea. So when he'd done it, it became a business, and it literally changed. It flipped to being like a Saturday pop-up shop to being actually consistent appointments for the first 3 months, and that's where it took off. You know, one chair, one mirror, and it was cut and sew. You know, so that was a great time.
So from that, obviously, you sound a bit like me. It's like I did for this logo for Barber Bash, and again, I pay people in haircuts, you know. So my mate, who's a brilliant graphic designer, he just had free haircuts the rest of his life. But we have to do that. We have to, you know, find ways of making things happen. And if you visualize something, I always write everything down and make these crazy lists that people laugh at me. But, you know, I'm constantly thinking, and you know, sometimes, you know, you're not all born with this silver spoon in your mouth. You've got to make it yourself. And, you know, you visualize it's going to happen and you make it happen. And that's admirable. So from that little shop, and I know that shop, I've been in it a couple of times. How did it start to grow? You know, did you go out and headhunt barbers, or did barbers come to you? And did it grow to 2, 3, 4? What happened?
So we roll on maybe 3 months into this, and I think I'd set up Instagram, not knowing actually who or where I seen barbers on it. But I told you, I think I used to watch YouTube tutorials of, I think it was Vic the Barber or Vince the Barber, and that's how I would practice on my little brothers in the kitchen. And then all of a sudden, these young guys who were literally cutting in wooden sheds or in their kitchen started to like, whoa, I think the younger generation, I always seem to think, are a little bit ahead. So they already had like a lot of haircuts on Instagram and videos, but they see me. There wasn't a shop in Dublin that had an Instagram page. And only doing my research, I actually don't think that there was 2 other shops, maybe the Butcher Barber and a shop called Sam's, that had Reserva. And I don't think they had an Instagram. I literally think we were the first barber shop to do it. So we were pioneers in that way. And a young guy, Jay Murray, aka Jay's Fades, he messaged me saying, I love this. This looks so cool. And Gary, it was literally one chair, a couple of tiles, and a mirror. There was no TV, there was no heating, there was no water, there was no wash basin. But he was so ambitious, and he could see, I want to be working for a shop, cut and sew, because I had the name and I was doing haircuts in town. No barbers in Ireland, let alone Dublin, had an Instagram. So I think the platform which the young kids were already using, they could resonate to that. And then we made a tiny little second section for him, and he only did 1 day a week, Mondays, and he actually had a bit of a following. He had like 10 lads waiting for him every Monday. They didn't do appointments, even though we had a little an appointment or a little diary. And then they just got busier and busier, and people started to see it, because people would buy records and spray paint and say, this is cool. This isn't like my barber shop. Why is there not like kids playing PlayStation and a load of old geezers sitting on a bench? And then again, as soon as I got more money and I started to cop on and see things on Instagram, I was like, oh, okay, they have a booking system. Let's go to Reserve or Booksy or whatever you use. And 6 days a week working, still DJing 2 nights a week to generate money. And then I said, right, I can afford not more expensive chairs, like from salon service. But I was buying secondhand chairs from Chinese hair salons in Dublin. And then we were like, okay, I can get some nice tiles, I can get some good lighting. All of the stuff just kept on building.
So it's constantly evolving, all down to being determined by what you had in your pocket, really, and how you could move forward.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, myself and yourself, because you've obviously, you know, multiple salons now, global brand for what you do. But it's, when I think of I actually didn't stop and think of, I'm spending every penny or every hour working. It was just so natural that only when people say it to me, I get a bit like, I don't really like it. And it's funny because I do like the notoriety. Sorry, I do like someone saying you're doing great, but I get a bit shy. It's a bit like, as much as my ego or my head likes it, I can go a bit red or like, stop.
You sometimes don't know how to answer that, because if you say, yes, I have, you can come across as a bit of a knob. But, you know, so it's a difficult one. Sometimes it is a bit, what's the word? It makes you feel a bit uncomfortable, doesn't it, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. So to speed it up, we obviously then, the owner was like, look, you can knock down this wall. There was like a little partition for his office and safe. And he's like, but if you knock this down, I'll charge you another 150. And he was like, I'll happy, I don't mind that. And I was like, what? So then I had to get from 1 chair to 2. Then I took the leap again to go to 4. Put in probably a couple of thousand, like a tile, got a wash basin, mirrors, lights. But it was a process of another 6 months. So within a year, we had gone from 1 to 4 chairs. And we had, I think, Sonny and a guy, Steve. These are like great young lads, all actually from Lucan. I don't know what it was about this particular part of Dublin. Maybe they all just, there's something in the water. And they were really good young lads, all like maybe, I think, 19-ish. And I was probably 26. But no guys, I told you, I think, at my age, they were already in a shop. They weren't accustomed to Instagram. They thought we were hipsters, thought we weren't cool. They were like, nah, your haircuts shouldn't go on the internet. We don't take pictures of the haircuts, etc. And I was
what
like,
did you feel about the vibe in Dublin at the time? You know, I was going to ask you that because obviously you've got a couple of really good barbers, friends of mine like Sam's Barbers and a couple of others. Was the atmosphere or vibe sort of somewhat hostile to somebody new coming in, or was it welcoming into your community, or how was it at that time?
Now, as I like to say, it was a block party, you know what I mean, on Instagram, because I was like, why are these guys... So this is a mad thing. Within a radius of where we were, right, in like a 5-minute radius, I think we had about 10 people approach us for jobs after year 1. And it was kind of weird because out of all of them 10, out of all the people that asked for a job, who eventually came to work for us, I think 4 of the shops shut down. And all of their staff wanted to then come towards us. It just took them a while to adjust. So initially, I got a lot of grief from the owners. 1 or 2 actually came up to me and verbally were like, this isn't what you're doing. You haven't a effing clue what you're talking about. Don't say this. You're not a real barber. You don't do hot towel chairs. And I was like, look, man, I'm just doing my thing. You do your thing. I've no animosity towards anybody. And it was hostile, Gary. Like, I used to have to walk a different way to go and get a cup of coffee because I was like, you know what, it's not worth the headache of seeing this grumpy fuck give it out to me. So it used to take me about 15 minutes to go to a coffee shop that was 1 minute away. I'd be walking around Temple Bar like in a maze.
That's where you lost all the weight. That's when you lost all the weight. You were 24 stone.
I know, I'm half the man I used to be. But what happened was basically, so it was tough at the start, and then it was like crazy. Like, I've never seen something blossom so much. And that's, I think, when I got the idea for the cut and sew, the hoodies and the apparel. I think it actually was Vic the Barber or some shop or some guy on YouTube that had his brand there. And I was like, it actually looks quite cool. And I was fed up of wearing good t-shirts to work and getting hair and being itchy and all that. So I was like, why not get
the nipples? Terrible. Hairs on the nipples. Terrible.
Yeah, it's not good. And then it just was crazy. Like, then I started to see so many. It was all young barbers came to us. So many guys who have all got shops now in Dublin. I remember them coming in and being like, I could see them looking, being like, they've got cool music on. Well, you know, but like we were listening to Boiler Room or mixes online on SoundCloud. And we would come in and there was a nice vibe. Everyone would say, what's up, how's it going? The general barber shop, as you know, you don't speak to the barber, just go next. Come on, you. But we would be like the social that we kind of got beers in. It was a mad vibe, like, because no barbers, why would they spend money giving you shit for free? They're real, like, there was no next level service in any barber shop. Well, I say that, but there was none that did beers. There was none that did appointments apart from probably the Butcher Barbers and Sam's. And I don't think either of them ever gave beers out. But they would give you maybe a tea or coffee. They were really, really good shops. But I think we were the new kids, and there was a lot of hate towards us. They were like, nah, they're only jokers. Look at them, young lads. They've got tattoos, loud music. They think they're going to do it all. And they're like, you'll be shut down in a year. But then you fast forward a year later, and I was like, you know what? I need to grow, because we couldn't take, like, we were turning away just as many people as were coming in. And that's actually true. I'm not lying. So as you know, we opened up 2 minutes around the corner to our Wellington Key shop, which now is our biggest and flagship store, and that's the biggest shop front in Dublin city centre. 2 big, huge glass windows, glass door on the River Liffey, put an antique pool table. I worked my socks off because everyone said they're not going to last, they're hipsters, they can't do this. So we did a classic barber shop, massively inspired by Scorum, and it's now rocking 7 chairs, and it's up there with, you know, the elite of barber shops in Europe. And I left the original shop, kept the cool kids in there because they loved it. The basement was tough on me because I was like 27 at the time. There was no natural light, but it's cool when you're like 18 to 25 maybe. And then that shop, then Wellington Quay grew. So madness.
Yeah, that's when I got in touch with you. I can remember exactly where it was when I first phoned you, asking could we come and do a workshop. The first workshop we did was Alan Beak, and I was in Liverpool, and I'd seen your stuff all the time coming up. And again, I think the branding was spot on. I also think I remember. What's the guy? Callum Best had got a T-shirt from you. Callum Best, the guy who's, you know, George Best's son or whatever. He got a T-shirt, and so I thought, well, I'll give this guy a call. And you were so welcoming, and you really welcome with his open arms. And that's what we've tried to create, is this community where, you know, of course, there's always going to be a little bit of jealousy, and it's been historic that sort of the older fraternity never like what the new ones are doing. You know, going back to the Beatles and things like that.
Gary.
Sorry, say again.
The miniskirt, when women started to wear miniskirts, they were like,
no. Listen, the youth have to have the culture, don't they? And the oldies have always looked down on it and, oh, that's not going to work, but it does. But you were very welcoming to us, and we came and did our first workshop in your Wellington Quay shop, and it was mega. I remember you had these lovely, with like a tan Belmont chair you had in there, and you had the pool table, and you had the Chesterfields, and you had the lovely Scorum things in there, the Scorum posters. Tell me about that leap, because it must have been a quantum leap to have gone from a small shop paying 50 quid for a couple of days a week, and then now you must have had the big lease around your neck, and you've got big rent to pay. How did that all sort of change the picture?
So me and you know each other a few years, so you kind of know the gist of it. I didn't know you had to have a deposit, a business plan, architect drawings, and you had to have money basically. And I was like, wow, how are we going to go to this shop, which is literally the biggest space, and it still is the biggest shop that we have. It was crazy. I just think I had tunnel vision, and I could see it work, and I wanted it so much that I was like, I'll just get it. So I was like, okay, electrician, I'll pay an electrician, Tyler, I think the hardest thing was to get a lease done. So you have to get a solicitor, which was, I think, about €3,000. But that's legally binding. I didn't have that in the first shop because I just knew the guy. It was gentleman's agreement, and that was grand. So that was 2 years in. Then the leap I think I took, a friend of mine, Kev, he's brilliant. He really worked his socks off. He was a carpenter. He went above and beyond and did that. So it was kind of a lot of favors you pull in and friends. You know, my brother's an electrician. So you'll find a way if you want something bad enough. And I wanted it, baby. I was like, come here. These guys who all have shops here for 10, 20 years, they think we can only do a hip kind of cool graffiti on the wall shop. And I was like, no, we can go high end. So Chesterfield, antique couch, tan Belmonts, like really dropped light, and there's antiques in this shop, like all up on the shelves. And it's funny, at the time, that's what I wanted the shop to, because I felt like I'm a young man, 28, inspired by Scorum. I used to wear the little waistcoat and all that. And gradually or organically, it grew. There was a bit of it was mad going from one shop to the other. I think people were like, this lad's off his head. Why would you open a shop 2 minutes away from each other? Would you not just move everyone to the big shop? But I knew the value in having, like, we don't franchise, and I'll talk about that in a second, but you leave the cool young guys in the basement with the loud music, then the slightly older kind of gents want the big bright windows, nice couch, etc. And I thought I could hit 2 different target audiences, which lo and behold we did. And we did a 10-year lease there, and we've just renewed it. Like, we did the first 5 years, and then we've renewed it for another 10. And we only had 4 chairs in at the start, 2 of which were occupied. And then I just copied the same formula again, you know. The basement was rocking. We were starting to rock. Pass and trade comes into it. Then more barbers see our Instagram social profile building. 4 chairs. Then we had to knock down a waiting area in Wellington Quay when you were there, you would have been 4 chairs. And then we got 6 and now 7. And I think if the business model works, it should organically grow. And if it's not growing, you need to question yourself, as you know more than most, you know. If you're not selling more tickets at each event, there's something needs to be changed up.
Yeah. So just going on to that, you've gone from having 2 or 4 staff in the smaller shop, the underground basement, cool record store. Now you've got to have more staff. You found sort of controlling the standard of quality and also obviously having all those personalities. Has that given you many problems? I imagine it might have done.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest thing I think in this industry, is to manage the staff, quality control. But at the time, Gary, we had no competition. And it's funny because I'm not stupid. I'm well aware that there's amazing barbers who don't have social media and who are way busier and making more money than us. There's a big chain of barbershops in Ireland called the Grafton Barbers, and they've about 50, 60 stores. I think they're amazing businessmen to sell their brand and franchise it to every town in Ireland. The guys are millionaires. Credit to them. It's a great place to start. We've had some amazing barbers come from there. It's a great place to start because they're very busy. They don't do appointments. But is it cool? In my opinion, no, it's not cool. And I'd say that gladly to anyone. It's just I don't think it is. Not in a negative way. It's just it's quite classic.
It's a different catchment market or a different target that probably business model is.
Yeah, and I went there once, but they make a lot more money than we do. And if it's about making money, they're the kings at it. So I'm like, fair play to them. I hope they buy me a whiskey when they see me out one day. But for me, I worked in each shop, and I'm working side by side with these personalities. So I was like, well, I want hip-hop music on. I want house music on the weekends. I want chill-out music in the morning. I want beers in the fridge. I want people to come in, and because I'm quite social and would have come from DJing and a salon background, when you go to a salon, the customer experience was so good. They would say, Gary, do you want a cup of tea or do you want a beer? And they would nearly know what you want from before you come in, like going to a local pub. They'd say, Guinness, Sean, or whatever. And I really didn't get that in any barbershop I went to in Ireland for years, because before I was going to Tony and Guy as a customer, I started to, my haircuts weren't skin fade. They were classic scissor over comb in Tony and Guy because they didn't have a gents system at the time. And then barber shops, there was an amazing shop called the Waldorf. It's the most famous shop in Ireland.
Yes, I've heard of that. Yeah.
It's sold now, or it's shut down. It's basically it's sold off now. I think I think it is shut down. No, the family sold it. Liam Finnegan, who was the godfather of barbering in Ireland, he trained the Scorum lads how to hot tail shave, etc.
Correct. Yeah.
And I remember going there, and that was the best experience I've ever had. But there was no appointment. The people kind of knew who you were, but you'd go in. There was like 1920s music. You could smell the shaving cream, literally like what you would imagine it to be back 80 years ago. Or 100 years ago. And when we were doing it, I don't know, it's just the personalities. There was no, as I said, there was no one else to tackle us. So all these cool young guys who have grown on. We had a girl, Leah Hayden Cassidy. She walked in the door one day. This is deadly. Her friend Connor Taft came in to do training with me. Imagine that, years ago. And we had all these young guys. And names, when I think back, I'm like, it's because nobody had the Barber Federation, or no one had a criteria. I forgot all about these people. They came to me because they were obviously a lot younger, cooler generation, and they just seen we were doing education. And I was only doing the best of my ability to teach what I had learned for income, to try and grow the brand, and just as something for the love of it. And when I think back then, I was like, I had all these rock stars with us, but they'd nowhere else to go. So we had a couple of years of boom, 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 boom. Nobody could touch us. Then we had like 8 staff in 2 years. So we go from 1 to 8, and I made a load of mistakes. I didn't understand the correct rate of pay, the correct PRSI, paying VAT tax. I got hit with a mega tax bill for like 30, 40 grand, which was fine because we had it at the time. But because I didn't know the right rate of pay per person, which now I have down to a fine art,
yes.
It was the roller coaster. I could have bought a house if I was better with them, but it was grand. We made a lot of money at the start. Then we opened a third shop who a business partner approached me called Blind Eye, which I'm no longer a part of. It's a beautiful shop, and Danny, my friend, she manages it there. And I learned a lot from that. I made a lot of mistakes. I had a gentleman's agreement again which just means a handshake. And he was just a multi-millionaire, seeing how cool the brand was intelligent enough to cash in on it, gave me a shitload of money and gave me this shop. But I didn't put in €1 to that shop. Built it up the same again, 1, 2, 3, 4 guys. Place was rocking. And then I moved away a year later. And as soon as I moved away, because he knew the value of me and I'm the boss, he started to like, there was little bits involved. Money stopped coming out of the bank. Invoices were getting delayed. There was tension. He wanted me to grow, do another shop. And I settled. I stayed away from that shop and went back. And then I said, let's just stick to what I know. Cut and sew, done drum. So I'd gone from 3 to 2 to 3. So I've been up and now I've had 6 shops, even though we've only 3 rocking at the minute. So everyone thinks it's gravy and they only see the highlight reel on Instagram. But it's Dundrum, the same. I went there, took in an apprentice, took a second apprentice, then a senior stylist, and it's just the form is working. And now that's 3 shops all rocking. Dundrum has a 5th chair gone in now, looking at a new shop. So I'll do the same. I'm going to go work there. I'll take an apprentice or a senior stylist, build it up. And the formula that works for us is the one that worked from the start. So it's...
Yeah. So is it just you now, as you're the sole owner of Cut and Sew, or do you have any partners now?
Yeah, so I have 2 business partners, silent business partners, one for Cut and Sew Dundrum and one for Wellington Quay. Both amazing guys. And to anyone looking to get into business, there's pros and cons to these. And it's funny because in the online coaching that I'm doing, I'll tell you, I'll go into deeper detail with people if they want, but there's pros and cons. Even if you give 50% of a business to somebody, right? You have to know your value. If you give them 10% of your business or 10% of the income, how do I say this? There's still only 2 people in this. So it's still split 50-50. Like I'll use the screen as a thing. If they're only getting like 10%, there's 20, 30, 40, 50. You still have to have them, part of that business. And that can be a bit taxing. Like it was with the guy in Blind Eye. That he was like such a small percent. He only wanted 50% of the profit. So he didn't have any say in any creative staff, hiring, firing, anything. But still, that 10% was such a headache that I gladly got rid of it because I just wanted to be my own thing. So the 2 business partners I have, I'm actually really good friends with. They're just silent business partners. They do obviously some clerical work and help in the back end, but they create freedom. They don't question if I'm updating the system, the apparel, everything's all my own. And they've given me financial relief. So if you don't have 50 grand in the bank or 30 grand to do a shop, this is what a business partner can do. They'll offer you that. The money will come back to them, obviously, over the next couple of years, and you grow your brand. And that's obviously all the big shops do it. Like it's, unless you franchise the shop, whereas the franchisee pays you the money to do it. That's what the Grafton, I think, do. They, the Grafton Barbers, they're really, I think the person gets a bank loan, pays for the shop fit, the chair, has to use all their branding products, Neon's chairs, and then they kick back 7 to 10%, I think, of the revenue every week forever. So,
yeah. On that point you just mentioned about, I know you're doing some online business coaching, which I think is a great idea, because one of the things, when you're a boss or you've got your own shop, sometimes it's hard to find somebody to talk to. And, you don't want to maybe talk to your partner about things because when you're at home, you want that to be your personal life. So just talk to me a little bit about your consultancy that you're doing now and how people can get on board with that.
So it's an insight. It's like business mentoring, Gary. If somebody's going to go run a barber event, they should want to go and talk to someone like you. Obviously, it's weird because you will technically be a competitor to them. For us, there's so many barber shops and hairdressers and barbers that don't know how to go about opening a shop. And this podcast will obviously be of great help to them. But people still, when they see or go to big shows like the Great British Barber Bash, it's not actually intimidating at your shows because we're all on the same level. And the flow of it's actually real social. These global shows, when everyone stands like a god on the stage and they're all backstage, you can't see them, it's not as beneficial. So I think not to get off the point, but I think when people come to to a show and they see like your Ryan Cullens, your Leah Hayden Cassidy, your whoever, Neil Toners and Alan Beeks, they actually get to chat to them and have beers with them and they can ask questions. But sometimes people feel like they're taking too much of your time. So with the online coaching, it's a FaceTime or a Zoom, like just as much as easy as this is. And from the comfort of their own home, they can just jot down on their notepad and pen things they want to learn, and it's real casual, and it's a great source of income for me. I'm not making mad money, but it's more of I'm building my contacts. These people won't forget who gave them help. If I'm doing any education dates, if I'm selling clothes, they'll probably be bought into the brand and be like, well, Sean actually gave me great advice and it's helped my business, so I'll help them. And I'm real about that. I always want to give, and it comes back tenfold.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the Barber Bash, one of the main things is building a community, and that's what we've done from the outset, is try and keep as many people involved. It's not easy all the time because sometimes there might be somebody saying, oh, you never got back to me. We try and get back to everybody, but we've made it so that even after this, if people haven't listened to this podcast, you can ask us questions, drop us a message. We'll try and help you out as much as we can. And it's all about sort of sharing. Listen, at the end of the day, people are going to want to have their own path. They are going to want to maybe leave you and open their own shop. But you know, it can be done in a way that is mutually beneficial, and we don't lose friends over it. Going back to that point, people leaving you is always a killer. I mean, I've been in the industry for over 30 years. I had my own shops for 25 years or something like that. When you've lost people, how has that affected you? And, you know, tell us a little bit about that, because it's a truth of barbering, isn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, ideally, back to Jay, it's amazing that I can remember everyone's name still after 7 or 8 years who worked for me. And I don't know if you can at 25 years, Gary, but still, it hurts. So when you hire somebody, especially your first employee, you're kind of hiring someone that you have to get on with, because there's only 2 of you. So you have to really like the person. You want them to be successful. You want them to make money. You want them to make as much money as possible. And you want to see them grow. And a lot of employers get this wrong. They want to make as much money out of you, and they want to give you as little money as possible. I'm the opposite. I think people work better when they're paid more, because I definitely was. Obviously, there's a limit and there's a strategy to know what this is. Hence, at the start, basically what I did is I was just paying everybody a day rate. I didn't know what the industry standard was. 50-50 gets thrown around a lot, which is so incorrect, because VAT, tax, and PRSI. And when somebody comes to work for you, they should want to work with you, and I don't want someone to work for me. And that sounds real egotistical, but I've copped on to that a long time ago. When somebody comes to work with you, it gives them a sense of pride and a sense of fulfillment. So when you're like, here's young, let's just say Abby's the latest barber to come work with us, so she would be a junior barber. So she wants to work with us because she likes the brand. She can see she can grow. She can see the shops grow. She can eventually make a lot of money, etc. So we set the standard of wage for a junior barber, and then we the program, or the way we set it up, builds it up, etc., etc. And then we ask people to do at least 2 years with us. When somebody comes to you and doesn't want to commit to at least 2 years, we don't want to even look at them. So, for instance, Jay was with us for 2 years, very ambitious young man, and he goes, I want to go to Manchester to a barbershop called Ruger. I'm like, what? You're leaving me? No, please, no. But then we had Sonny, we had Steve, we had Leah, we had Daryl, we had a load of guys. And I was like, why are you going? Please, and we're not cool enough. But he just wanted to grow and go to a different country, to a Ruger, I think, was a tiny place then. But he connected on Instagram. I think I never actually was in it, but it looked like it was in like the side of a house or an extension, or the side of a building.
Yeah. The first Ruger shop was actually at the back of a hair salon, but it was lovely the way they did it out. Lovely cement floor, quite industrial. But nevertheless, it was more of a sort of the back of a salon, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And when Jay left, I was like, oh, crap. Because then you're like, if he's opening the mind for the next, they'll leave. And it hurts. And I think about 90%, maybe 95%, we've probably had about 40 staff, I think, over the years. And I'd say only 3 or 4 I felt like did me wrong as such. And what happens is, you can take things 2 ways. If you're I think, a good human and are nice enough to, like, if you work for somebody, they give you an opportunity to pay your wage, you should be appreciative of it. Like, you've hired probably hundreds over the years. Not everyone's going to like you. You're not going to like everyone you work with, but if you're a good boss and you're a good dude, I think people should owe you the respect to kind of say, look, Sean, I'm going to give you a month's notice. I'm going to go do my own thing. That's totally fine. If people myself and Ross Parlane from RPB in Manchester, he was telling me, like, customers have skanked his shop, literally copied the same tile, chairs, mirrors, lighting, and we're going to him for haircuts and asking, where'd you get them lights? They're real cool. And then just not telling them. Like, staff and shady people, I think, are weak people. The weakest people are like bottom feeders. If they can't come to you face to face, man to man, and say it, people are going to know that they're bottom feeders and snaky and slimy, and they slither along. But everyone that has come to us or to me and has said, Sean, I'm going to do my own shop, even if it was next door, I would be like, brilliant, I can't wait, and I'll help you if you need me. I'm a mentor. I appreciate all the money you made for us and the time that you had with us. And they should be the same. Thank you for the opportunity, the training, the money, memories. But when people leave you and they go and do it in a shady way, it hurts, and you get it's only natural, Gary. You know yourself. If somebody copied your idea for a barber event, I'm sure that many have tried and failed.
Yeah.
I
mean, the thing is, it does happen, you know. And at the end of the day, all they see is you on social media, on holiday, and then they see the show, and it's in its final part, you know, where that's the easy bit. That's the where people maybe have a beer or whatever. So people see the last minute stuff, but they don't see the hours and hours of work and the sleepless nights and the dealing with sponsors and the sorting the travel out for all the people who arrive, and they come along and think, I want a piece of this. And a lot of them do it, and we all have a bit of an ego, don't be wrong, but a lot of them do it because they want to be that star of the show or whatever. And believe me, you've just got to put so much into your business like you have done. What I was going to say to you just before we've got a couple of more topics to talk about, but if you could give three tips to somebody who's looking at starting a shop, 3 golden tips, what would the 3 tips be? Let's think about it.
Well, okay. Well, it would be location is so key. Some really good shops do great in a bad location, but that's the very few. If you're playing a safety game, get a good location, get a good lease and contract. I'll put that in there together. And I think branding, Gary, if you are just called John Mick's Barbershop, Paul's Cuts, John's Cuts, it's not enough in this industry. You need to think about like top branding and look at the people or peers that are doing well and kind of try and copy what they do. That's naturally what everybody does. I think them tips, good contract location first, then contract and lease, which basically gives you security and you can sleep at night, and then branding or naming a company.
Brilliant. Now that brings me on to, like I said, when I first met you, I'd noticed your branding. I know that Callum Bester got a T-shirt, I think, off you at some point, and you've got those new hoodies, which I've got one of those off you. I'm glad you see them in medium, which fits me. Talk to me about how you come up with the branding ideas, and do you pay somebody to do it, or is it all going on in Sean's head?
So I get the idea upstairs, and obviously I'm not a graphic designer, and I am a big fan of art, as you can see from some bits behind me. I just get an idea, I'll sketch it out really badly on a piece of paper, and I'll send it to a graphic designer to digitize it or digitalize it. And they will then come back, and I'll say, I will literally go like your t-shirt, say, right, can I have this type of style or font? I want it on the crest, I want it on the pec, and I want something on the back or the side.
My pecs, very important. I've got to keep the pecs proud. You know what I'm saying?
And then they will send you back a mock-up of the artwork, and if you're happy, you prove it, you get it done. Also, it's your brand. You want to get it seen by people. It's a fun, creative outlet to do. But I do think that we could potentially sell a lot of our stuff if we wanted to get an avenue in a store, because it's not called John's Barbershop. It's Cut and Sew or Cut Sew, that like people can I think they like they like it, and it does really well. Our shop is on cutandsew.ie, but we do it mostly through Instagram now, Gary, and it sells, but that's a full-time job, so it's if you'll get in as much, you'll get out of it as much as you put in. But at the minute, we're about to do it shop, so it's not a big source of revenue at the minute, but it's a great creative outlet.
Okay, listen, just a couple more questions really for you. So we've got about 10 minutes or so to go. You've constantly as well talked about Instagram all the way through, and I'm a big fan of it in the fact that it's a free promotional platform, and it's also a platform that's brought us all together, to be honest. That's how I know you, really. But talk to me about the pros and cons of Instagram and maybe some tips of how to do a good job on it.
Well, it's free. It's a lookbook for your clients. A lot of people get mixed up with Instagram. Like, Instagram should be it's kind of a platform now for other barbers to impress other barbers, etc. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of the people they get the idea that I use it to sell. Like, it's a tool. If I'm trying to sell a hoodie or a course or a haircut or a new shop, I put a post up. But now it's become very self-absorbent to a lot of people. Like, look at how cool I am. Look at the haircut I can do. I think barbering should be about the person in your chair, and they pay you. Don't get it twisted. You know what I mean? Like, they're paying your bills, your wages. They're allowing you to live your lifestyle. So I try and give a little bit of the staff, what we're selling, lifestyle. Everybody just doesn't want to see a cut anymore. They might want to see your regular Joe, or how does David Beckham achieve his look? Why did I don't know, Brad Pitt grow his hair? There's so many platforms and avenues to go down that I think you should have it. You should have it and follow your peers, follow people like yourselves, booking app systems, Booksy, Reserva, and just keep an eye on it, because you will only become as good as those that set the standard. And, you know, you might be the one to set the standard. So use the platform as best as you can. And I think it's amazing. We wouldn't be where we are, Gary, without this. We were very lucky to work with Dyson, who have given us and look after us with all of our hair dryers. Global brand. We're the only people or shop in Ireland that have that in barbering.
That's amazing. That's brilliant.
Puma sponsor us. Like, they're great. Carlo, he's a hero. He looks after us with any launch.
Size 10.
Next one. And now we have like multiple, like, I'm not too sure what that bottle of whiskey is on the back. Is that Jameson?
Jameson, they're one of our sponsors. Big up Jameson.
Yeah, same. We've like multiple whiskey companies looking after us. And it's funny, these all become because of the power of your brand. And anytime I'm at one of your events, I love a Jameson and ginger ale. There are all these things. When you build a platform, good things come. And yeah, I don't know, there's a lot of value. Here's a good one. Your network is your net worth. I like that one.
I like that. That's a really good one. Right, I'm going to hit you with a couple more. We've got just 2 or 3 more things just to touch on. We talked about, obviously, Dublin is a place I love, although it's bloody expensive. We talked about Jameson's and our show. I got you on stage at our first Dublin show this year, last year, was it? Sorry. I loved it. You were on there along with, I think, Mickey Graham from JFH in Belfast. Yeah. And who else were you on stage with?
Yeah, and Phony Pony.
And Phony Pony, she's brilliant. I love that girl. She's from London. She came along by actually doing one of our competitions, and her personality just was that great. We've had her on about 5 shows now. She's fantastic. But tell everybody, what was it like doing our barber show, our barber bash in your hometown? What was the vibe, and how much you enjoyed it?
So obviously it was a big moment. I was like, obviously you were like, Sean, we have to have you there, cut and sew. Like, for me, it was pretty iconic because I've DJ'd in that room, in that venue. And to do my actual job, not my hobby, to a room full of peers, to be on the stage with, you know, people, industry, I suppose heroes and people I look up to, I was poxy. I was very nervous. Like, I was like, this is, oh my God, my model, like, okay, he dyed his hair. We'll do some of the haircut before the show, prep it. I'm in the green room where I've only ever been drunk down there. So I have to do this show sober, put on the Britney Spears microphone and go and like kick ass at the show. And then you go out, and then credit to you guys, it's like wall to wall, people engaging, stage here, suppliers here, people on the balcony, tunes kicking, the MC Gary Spencer, big warm welcome, and you come on and you settle in quite quick. I think that's the beauty of the Barber Bash. A lot of the other shows are too strict and rigid, and you go there, it's like going to school, and there's only so much you can kind of look at someone doing this section, up, down, this, and I'm like, we don't have that engagement. We're Instagram heads and social media type of generation, so we want to see a little bit in between. So this is why we wear the headphones. There's a bit of chat, people can engage, you throw out product, you throw out questions, and that's why they always sell out and are in venues like the Button Factory, which is like 1,000 people and even bigger. And I think, yeah, it's amazing. I can't wait to do it again, and maybe bring on some of the superstars. But I can't. What I also want to say is to the listeners, it's a great platform for all of the superstars who I think can cut better than me. They go and they get to cut on the floor at one of the other stages, and the Osmo stand is always brilliant. And there's so many places and you can talk to us very close knit. So it was a big honor, Gary. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I loved it.
No problem. My pleasure. My pleasure. Listen, we're hoping to do one again soon. To be honest, as soon as we get some information about how groups can start sort of being together again, we're going to get on it and be back in Dublin, because we love Dublin. As I say, criminally expensive, but great fun. What was I say? The other thing is, you hit the nail on the head. With us, it's all about getting together, and it's about the person you maybe spoke to on Instagram, or seen the work on Instagram, or seen the brand on Instagram. And we want it where everybody's just chatting and coming together as a community. We started the Barber Bash about 6 years ago, and one of our things with Alan Beak, we came up with this thing: no egos, no attitudes. And that's what we made. We wanted everybody to be approachable, and that's what makes it special. One thing I was going to ask you as we finish off, young people who are listening to this, or people even who've been in other careers wanting to get into barbering, which we get a load of them who maybe wanted to do barbering when they left school, and the parents said, oh no, go to university and do something else, and now they come back in the industry. What again would be a couple of tips for somebody coming into our brilliant trade?
I think, and this is good because me and you know each other, no egos, no attitude. That could be a really good t-shirt, Gary. Get on that.
Get on it.
I think whoever you warm towards, whether it be your local shop or a more expensive shop in your town or city, if you kind of like what them guys are putting out, whether it be social media, word of mouth, or whatever, go to them and see what it is you like about them. I like no egos. Anyone that comes in with an ego, or people that have done a job, interview or trial with us, it doesn't last. Like it's not. Our industry is not about us. It's about the people and the person in the chair. So I think do your research. It's become a weird kind of industry at the minute. The core value of it is looking after people, making the person in the chair look and feel good, and that's why I like doing it. So if you're going to get into this industry to make a lot of money, you're probably in the wrong industry. It's a kind of it's a labor of love. I love that saying. We do this because I'm quite social. I like everyone that comes into my chair, and with my job in industry, it's a community-based job. Like, I get to see everyone in a restaurant, a pub, a club. When I'm out shopping, I'll see the people who I look after. And there's a nice community, or you'll have a coffee with them, and I become friends with all these people. And I think do it for the love of it. Definitely don't do it because it's the hip new thing. There's you can make more money being a fucking Forex trader or something. You know what I mean? It's a people-pleasing industry, and if you can't please people, or you don't want to do that, then you're not going to do well at it.
Yeah, if people aren't your thing, it's the wrong place for you to be, isn't it? Do you feel, again, just before we finish off, do you think that a lot of people being drawn into the industry, maybe going on these quick courses, and they've not actually thought about the actual what's demanded of them when they're in a real shop situation? Do you think that maybe they learn how to do a fade, but have they actually learned customer etiquette and things like that?
No, so as me and you, like, you're between the two of us, we've nearly 45 years. Like, industry inside, and it comes down to the core values. I was lucky to work in Tony and Guy, where it was customer service was at the peak. If you start off in a place where they don't even acknowledge you when you come in, it's hard to change that around. But people can change. Most of the time we don't. Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
I think, as I say, people have got to realise that it's not just cutting hair and it's not just putting those pictures on Instagram. You know, it's, you know, you're going to work long hours. You've got to have that client that comes in at 5 o'clock wants the same service as the guy that came in at 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning. You are there for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, whatever you allow, 20 minutes, whatever you allow. And it's as much buying the person as buying the haircut, isn't it? You know, it's that sort of time you spend with them might be the only time that they speak to somebody. You know, they might have headphones on working on a forklift truck the rest of the time. So they want to buy that bubbly, outgoing person. So do think about that when you sign up for these courses. You know, are you a people person? Do you want to be in a service industry? I think that's a key thing. Right, last question I'm going to hit you with. Obviously, you've come a massive way in the sort of 5 years we've known each other. Where do you see Cut and Sew in the next 5 years? What's the path?
So great question. I think obviously you could say globally, shop in every country, continent. That's not our goal. I want to nurture the businesses that we already have. I don't want to take my eyes off the prize. Yes, it would be great to have a shop in London or New York, but there's multiple cool hip shops there already. I think grow already what we have, maybe another shop or two, and then take the brand or the clothing. Like I want to get into maybe the bar industry and maybe like a coffee industry. So I think with Cut and Sew, I could just use the formula and the mindset and the community that we have. Like we're building all of these generations that are coming through the doors. They grow with us. And I just know from the success of the clothing, the education, how many bums on seats we have. If we opened a little small bar, it would be packed. Everybody likes beer. If we opened a coffee shop, it would be packed. Everybody likes coffee. So nurture what we have, Gary, and try and find some more superstars and look after people better or as best as we can for as long as we can. And then, yeah, just keep on doing barber shows, especially the Great British Barber Bash.
Fantastic. Right, okay, so that's the end of our conversation. Thank you so much. It will be available on all platforms, obviously. Hit our YouTube channel as well, because we're going to pop it up on there, and there are loads of tutorials and show videos. If you've not been to one of our shows, you can see them all on our YouTube channel. Sean, thank you so much, my friend. You are a gentleman. You've got charisma. You've got abracadabra. Reach out and grab you. I think you're fantastic. I wish you all the best. I think Cut and Sew is really something that people should be following and watching, because you've done something magical with that. So thanks again. I'm sure we'll do this again, because I think we've got loads more to talk about. Thank you, and I'll see you soon, mate.
Thanks, Gary. Lots of love, buddy.